chicken. Chicks like chicken. Chicks to chicken. Chicks and chicken, chicks and chicken on the clubs. Turn life civilians. They spread their legs so wide so that you may see through. Let them run on behind, just to make it shady. They look so bad and masquerade to make you feel shady. Lose your mind, make you live your life behind. Make you live your life behind. Make you live your life behind. Make you live your life behind.
Does yours work?
Check.
Check. Okay.
Hello, Sam. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Okay, my name's Samantha. I'm here with Eric. Just a little bit about Uncensored New York. Uncensored New York is an art movement that was started a little over a year ago, originally as a response to the dehumanizing effects of cancel culture that me and my community were witnessing amongst friends and strangers. And so throughout the year, I've been watching how it's perpetuated in the media and how it is destroying our society. Yeah, so that's a little bit about Uncensored.
What about Radio Bonita? This is part of that, right?
Yeah, so Radio Bonita is now going to be streaming in New York at XPIZZA, which is a pizza shop in the South Street Seaport, on Mondays and Tuesdays.
So anyways, my name is Eric, and I primarily DJ, and I make music. I play guitar and cello. It's experimental. I collaborate with other bands, and I've been with Uncensored since, I guess, the inception of it, and been performing with bands and DJing for various events. So Sam and I are here today to talk about some stuff.
Do you want to say anything, Johnny?
Giovanni S.
Hi, I'm John. I'm alcoholic.
Okay, so basically I wanted to have these conversations once a month about media, capitalism, and the bigger picture. So
This is our first show, so
yeah,
bear with us.
this is like an experiment.
Yeah, and we'll have we can have open dialogue too with anybody
Yeah.
else wants to chime in, since you guys are here with us. So
So basically what I've been focusing on is how media exploits hate for profit. So hysteria is clickbait that generates money for media companies who will turn a profit and continue investing in ways to control us. So like essentially people are being brainwashed to not have any sort of intellectual desire to read articles other than tabloids. And so not everyone, but just generally like with mass media.
there's a large emphasis on it, for sure.
Yeah. And so media's conditioning creates a behavioral loop. So, and there was obviously like this intellectual understanding when they were creating these platforms to make it easily addicting. So there's the loop, and like the usage was designed to create a dopamine release, reward, attention, and addiction. So ultimately money drives our decisions.
Money and the validation like machine that's kind of been set up. Like I think people kind of acknowledge that there's algorithms that are fueling everything, and the fear kind of will always, it's like, so the cream rises to the top. Well, like the negative and the most like polarizing stuff will go to the top, and it kind of creates a feedback loop of fear, or even just like silly benign, low effort content that's just kind of like what has become everything mostly.
Yeah, exactly. So like media is like relying on hate to make money. So they're going to feed it as much as possible on these platforms so that essentially we're doing free labor for them.
Yeah, as long as everybody's, contributing, like we fuel those machines. We're the product, as like most people should know, is like like with say Instagram, like without our input it ceases to function. So we knowingly input our stuff and give our content up for the chance to become idolized next to celebrities and other people that are in the industry that are deified and idolized, and people, they've kind of created this machine to get everybody to kind of input and chime in. Yeah. I mean, it's created kind of like it's created this very again, echo chamber of stuff, because it's not really focused on the content as much as the platforms are focused on the views. They're focused on ad revenue. They're selling the data of our data to the clients, to the advertisers, and the content that gets viewed the most gets pushed forward.
Yeah, but more so with the hate and stuff, or even like censorship. Like I was talking yesterday. Was I talking to you on the phone yesterday, or maybe it was Johnny? But about like censorship. Yeah.
Maybe you talked to Johnny.
Yeah. But it's like back in the day, like censorship like meant something completely different than what it means now, I feel like.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of self-censorship, and when you talk about, art and things like with so much emphasis on displaying your life for everyone, art doesn't really get too much time to like marinate in privacy and be introspective as much as it's being like content is pushed out so heavily. Everyone is kind of under the gun to like show something at all times, every day, all day, brand,
No, but even like if you think about like censorship, like in the 60s and the 70s, like publishers, like basically like publishers were pushing work by like Burroughs, Kathy Acker,
sure,
like trying to put these books out, and basically like having to go to court because of obscenity laws to even try and get the work published, So that I feel like is like censorship in that time. But I feel like nowadays, like we don't even get there. Like we don't even get to the part where like the publisher or the record label is pushing like a controversial thing, because they just don't even want to deal with the repercussions.
Information travels too fast. Like it's instantaneous. Whereas before, people could put stuff out and then deal with the repercussion of it, like down the road, or the controversy. But now it just happens instantaneous.
And I also feel like the content is not what's controversial anymore. Like back in the days with like Burroughs or Kathy Acker, like the content was controversial.
Sure.
But like nowadays it's more so like the person being controversial.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is like what like new censorship is. I don't know if that makes sense. This is just like something that I think about.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're saying that the people today there's more self-censorship.
Yeah. There's more self-censorship, but there's also like, I feel like censorship in general just means something different.
Well, back then it's like censorship of ideas or like, going against political things. That was always going to be censored,
Yeah.
Or if something was tied to someone for some, act of violence because they, read, a book or listened to a band or something, and they were quick to, attack it and deem it, devilish or terrible or.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I guess the other thing is like that nothing actually is censored because we have access to the internet. So anything can actually be put online, right?
Yeah,
but
you can go on the dark web. It's like Thor or something. That's like the dark web browser. If you really want to look for some obscene stuff.
What's going on there?
You can find all kinds of crazy. There's like there's like web browsers that go on to what's like known as like the full internet, the full, like if you were looking to buy maybe like seriously, it's we use browse like in not that I'm on Thor looking at shit, but
Right.
we know about this. I mean, I'm a big fan of Aphex Twin, and he once put out a bunch of shit on the full web, but you had to access it through like Thor or something, which is like not a officially sanctioned web browser, whereas we get Safari and Google primarily. Those filter out all the other shit, that again pushes things to the top, whereas they're in the full internet, you can kind of, I guess, find literally anything. Like you can buy drugs like and have them mailed to you, or you can find other illegal type shit that you probably shouldn't be fucking with, but
Yeah, and I feel like also like back to using like the examples of William Burroughs, like where there was like a fight to push the content, and like not being in fear of like going to court and like fighting the obscenity laws. Like nowadays it's more so like people they're like scared about losing money almost. Like it's like it comes back to like capitalism, like money is controlling, money is creating the fear.
Metrics.
Yeah.
Metrics rule everything now. So like everything is run through algorithms and computers, and you can see what works and what doesn't work. So it's more or less like they just want media would like to stick to things that work, and taking risks involves potentially losing money, and nobody wants to lose money. They just want it. They want to know that it's going to work from the get-go. Like they know none of them are looking necessarily to be like cutting some, trailing, blazing a new trail necessarily. Because there's a lot of people, everyone's got to make money, everyone's got to get paid, and at the end of the day, like most of those companies that are established they're not like, hey, I think I'm gonna like chance losing, my mansion and a pool and potentially having to lay off workers because we're gonna do some risque thing. Like they want it to come off as like artistic and creative, but only so much that they're not going to like, it's also, there's kind of I feel like there's a general understanding among most of the like media and companies when it comes to that stuff, where like they run everything anyways, what we see and what we consume. So as long as they're all kind of keeping a flat line on it and serving up the same thing, no one is going to challenge another media conglomerate, with some racy shit, because then that's going to shake up everything, and then they have to play.
I'm not even talking about racy shit.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
pushing the boundaries, so to speak, artistically pushing the boundaries or something. Then it's like in music, they're not going to push. They want to push, the pop idols and stuff like that, pop icons, people that partner in with other big fashion labels, or everything is like a brand deal now. So like that's a heavy focus on that. So it's not necessarily about the art as much as it's about the person and like the money and the success and stuff like that. It's not about it's like who they're aligned with. So
yeah, but like I'm not even like fuck like mass media. Like what about just like I don't know, the underground?
That's
or
the
like
thing, is the
just,
underground can't even, like, it can't, the wall is so thick, like, to even, it takes something like what you're doing and what XPIZZA is doing and Radio Bonita for people to kind of like create something that is more grassroots, and just focusing here in New York and Brooklyn, and focusing on the community here, versus, and then letting that grow and become something, because that's how that gets through.
Yeah.
More or less.
And like the other thing that I will say is like I feel like I have a lot of these sorts of conversations with people where they're like on the same page, but they're still in fear, like
yeah, everybody's worried about getting ousted, Yeah. So I mean, it's important that people continue to show up to these, and yeah, if they're about the message and they want to contribute, and you can't stop the negative people that will try to shut something down. But I don't know. I just think that the more it is in person, like it takes this type of like meeting up consistently and having events together and not focusing so much on, because you guys all here have shown up and more people are coming, and this is what makes it special to continue to do that, out of that, eye, because it will grow and become its own thing,
Yeah, totally. I feel like just like talking about it and like creating like a bigger collective consciousness around these sorts of things. And if you agree with how, I don't know, if like you have a certain opinion about these things, like not to be in fear or like, try and change how people are.
Everybody's worried more or less about being recorded and doxed, and we've seen what happens to people for stuff that's not even regular ass people, like a dentist or something could get doxed online, and then it's for saying something or having a viewpoint about something, and then it's like their address is up and people are like breaking their windows at their practice and like going to their home or something. It's people are very fearful. Get a little close.
This is
Get a little
John.
closer.
Hi, Eric. We've spoken about this stuff a lot before. Long phone conversations about this type of shit. Yeah, I mean, what was the last thing that you said? I'm sorry.
People are afraid of being recorded, and right. There's a mob out there that will take your name, and now that they can search you and find you anywhere, they can there's more fear involved.
Yeah, well, from experience, I think that the fear is just now more fuel for me to do what I want to do,
Yeah,
and like kind of push back, and like I feel like people have to be a little bit more confident within themselves to not let most of these people just kind of bring them down, because it's unfortunately not a lot of people are like that, sadly.
It's tough because people again have to keep on living and surviving, and
exactly.
there is the fear that their whole life will get turned upside down, that you're not going to be able to find work, they're going to lose friends, like there's a whole narratives that come up and will keep them when now they're safe and they're making money and living their life. They'd rather stay blended in. They don't want to rock the boat, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like that's a really big problem.
Well, I don't think those people are very happy. I think that they will crave stuff like this. They crave this environment, and they're the ones that would want to support maybe anonymously, but
yeah, but that's bullshit. Like that's the thing. And the other thing that I want to bring up is like how, like, if we're talking about like venues or like record labels or like corporate magazines, that like I've seen in some situations where like they won't take a chance on things unless like they're able to profit from it. So like if you're like have been through some shit and like your name is Googleable and like there's some shit on the internet about you, like, but like if you have like a humongous following, it's like that venue will book you, like, because they're ultimately going to sell tickets. And I feel like that's like the biggest problem that I have with all of this is that, I mean, ultimately, like, we're being controlled by money. Like, that's the problem.
It's like I enjoy comedy. I enjoy Louis C.K. I know that's controversial for some, but like they tried to cancel him, and were successful, I guess, for a little bit. But again, like he's still able to perform and do his thing, even if he had to go back to starting out smaller and stuff like that. But he'd been, he put in the work. I guess if he was a younger man, newer in the industry, I mean, he probably would have just got shut out completely.
What did he do? He like jerked off in front of some girl?
Yeah.
That's what, and then like that was it, right?
Basically, yeah, that was his crime.
That was his crime.
Yeah. But like I said, if he was a younger person just getting started out, like that would have closed the door potentially for good on him, just because he didn't have such a reputation. People, know him as being funny. I mean, again, that's
I mean,
subjective.
I'm
to
a
people.
fan of his too,
Yeah.
But back to the venues thing, I think that, kind of what Sam was saying with like the profit, like the venues they'll only book you if you have like a certain following.
That
Even if you've been through something like, like doxing. I don't really like to say cancel culture that much anymore, but like doxing, people will inevitably book you if you're able to fill the venue. And of course, it always comes down to money. So like personally, like I can't perform because they know that I won't bring, over 120 people. Therefore, three people that I know that I won't name and venues that I won't name because I'm not,
Of course.
I'm not going to go after them. I'd be doing the same thing that they do. Have profited off of these people.
Yeah.
And they've gone through the same thing I've went through. But the fact that I'll only bring 70, 80 people and they'll bring 200 people, obviously, is, it's like what movement are you following? You're following capitalism.
Well, Uncensored has done, obviously with you guys have had large turnouts and collaborated with other people, other, I'd say, like designers and other artists and stuff like that, and it's been successful. But I think the most important thing is kind of like to avoid the commercial. It's better to go like DIY. I think New York is kind of, we don't have that as much, and that's kind of super important. That's where all the kind of fun stuff is going to happen anyways. And the venues eventually would obviously they'll pick up on that, but in order to build that following and build that community, it's like we continue to network with people that will host and have more of a DIY kind of.
Yeah, I mean, even if venues don't pick up on it, I think it's like
That's fine too.
that's fine. I actually prefer it, because like, if anything, it's inspired me and other people that I know to like make better work.
Yeah, it's just been harder for DIY stuff to kind of pop up, with.
Because they don't have money.
Yeah, I mean, it takes everybody. I mean, if the community is willing to like chip in on an event, that's like helpful, and ultimately, art for the sake of art is kind of what I think you guys are trying to get back to, instead of like just setting out to make it about money straightforward. Like it's about the message, it's about the art. It's if you're doing it for the money, like I think you're doing it for the wrong reason. Like it's nice to be appreciated, and that's obviously a bonus and a plus, but it shouldn't be the main focus. And it does take money.
Money is great, but it's not the main focus.
No, exactly. But it takes money to do this shit too. It takes money to set this up. It takes for XPIZZA to have us here. Is paying to have us, paying the bills, and having this and being able to set this up. Like it takes money, but it's a labor of love. It's a passion project mostly. Because you have something to say, and you don't. If you wanted to take the easy route, everybody kind of knows what the easy route is. If you look at what media is, pushing.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean that like my goal was to make money.
Not at all.
I
No,
just
I didn't
meant, like,
insinuate that at all.
Oh, okay, cool.
No. I just meant that like what you're doing is in line with what New York and art in general needs. Is like it needs more DIY. It needs something to build upon. And I had a friend she was a painter, and she was constantly like down. She's talking down to herself because she was working at like a retail store, and she just didn't. She didn't feel like she was really doing it. But I'm like, you're doing it, and she's always like telling me how much she wants to be featured in like a gallery, but I'm like, you're letting the gallery keep you out from like you feeling like an artist. So I like had to kind of push her to go out. I was like, why don't you just do like, you have paintings and you can do like wheat pastings, like why don't you just start doing your art? Like you should be like, I was trying to get her to be a little bit more of like a graffiti artist, to be honest, because she's a great painter. But I was like, you should inject a little bit more like street into what you're doing, and just don't wait for anybody to give you permission because you can't be in a gallery. I was like, just get out at night and start doing shit and put stuff in front of people's faces. I was like, your art can be appreciated more when someone randomly is crossing it versus among a fucking feed of like just garbage and ads and shit. And then it's like, oh, look, a fucking painting, like whatever. I was like, you should put your work out in the world physically and get out, you know, and fuck those galleries. Like, they're, you know, it's, if you wait for that, like, yeah, you won't, you're going to feel like you put it on a pedestal and you're waiting to like be validated through a fucking gallery. It's like, don't do that. Like, go put a painting, start weed pasting and draw and just figure out ways to put your art out into the world, you know? It's better that way. Like, that's the thing, is like, artists and people maybe are being a bit stifled because they're trying to build heavily because of venues and stuff want you to see you have a following, or they want to see that you can provide results up front. And that's like anything, they want to see that there's a guarantee, instead of taking a chance and letting it be mysterious and letting them not know, which, you know, mystery is kind of died these days.
Yeah, mystique is completely gone. And
Exactly.
it's like, you know, mystique is gone, and it's like, if you have if you are a mysterious artist, they want to know more, and that's always kind of drawn me to people like, you know, that I like in music. You know,
Yeah, it gets you to dream, and it gets you to ask questions. You know, when I've seen thought-provoking art, like, I like to think about it and dwell on it. I like to I like to think about it. I don't want to necessarily, you know, spoil it or have to read an analysis on something. Sometimes it's better to kind of sit and be introspective about what you've
and it's
seen.
not measured by the content anymore. It's measured by how many people are following you or how many people are liking your work. And I mean, that's why most of the stuff is, I mean, I think it's pretty terrible.
Yeah, I've told Sam and you guys about this book by Jeremy Weissman. It's called the Crowdsourced Panopticon. But if you are interested in this book, it's weird. It came out last year, and it's been a physical copy is kind of expensive, and I don't know like how. I haven't really seen it out in the wild. If you look hard enough on the internet, you may be able to find a place to read it. And it's not super long. It's like 180 pages, but throughout it gets to a place where it is, this Jeremy Weissman is talking about how art and creativity and things become more benign and more similar once you have introduced the validation system of, you know, likes and clicks and hearts and shit like that. And anything that is thought-provoking or different or just truly different isn't going to be validated like that. It's going to be pushed down under an algorithm of sorts. Like, it's always going to be pushed down.
And people are getting like dopamine hits in the wrong places too. I mean,
Yeah.
like, most people are getting their dopamine hits by all of this, like she said before, like hate content that is just like, let's like this, and like it does give you like an emotional reaction. You do get a dopamine hit from it, because I've participated not in hate, but I've participated in liking something that's
For sure.
really negative. And then like days later or weeks later, I came back and I was like, wow, like I got like anxiety and like I got like rage, and I had like, you know, I had like something going on in my head when I did that, and I realized like, wow, this is toxic. It's so fucking bad.
Yeah, I think
and it's just like people love to feel that. So if they see something that's like gonna feed their fire, like they'll just fucking, people keep liking shit over and over again, you know, and that's just like profiting from hate, you know, and like that's like why I'm off Instagram. It's just because it's just so full of like so much virtue signaling and people being so great, you know. It's like, look at me, how I gave $2,000 to this foundation. Like, no, you know, I'm pretty sure you're a piece of shit, but you know, it's like
yeah, I mean, it's I think that these platforms are innately like started as good things, and the people behind them like there is good in it, but they're tools that are being like they're being misused against us, and it's also not good because it's training our youth to kind of follow suit. They don't know any better, and I'm not saying like do without it. It's just they're being used against us in poor ways, but they're good tools if things could be fixed and changed a bit more, and if the companies values were to change, and the way that they're designing them to be addictive and to kind of they're designed around negative things, not, and it's not that they're supposed to be evil or bad. It's just having like a poor effect on like mental health and art, obviously, and just like the children and the people of tomorrow. It's like I don't necessarily think they need more time to like figure out who they are, instead of being like domesticated and trained through those platforms. I don't think that's a good place for them to like they're learning what is valid and what is quote unquote cool, and looking for that validation through following others that have that validation. They're going to, and it's only going to create sameness.
Yeah, we're being manipulated by social media.
Yeah, and it's
Pretty
tough because there's a lot of pressure from, again, like you said, the venues and people that would put out books or music and stuff like that, or they are interested. There's profit involved, and when it's they want the guarantee. So like that again, it's kind of everything has to grow, everything has to make more and grow and be bigger and better, and that's kind of.
Yeah, there's also like a lot of like everybody's a doctor now online. Like it's like self-help.
Yeah.
There's all these kids now that are bulimic because like some page says that like, oh, these are the 5 signs that you're bulimic. And like my cousin's like friends in high school, he's like, there are like 14, 15-year-old girls that I must be bulimic. Like, and it's pretty. No, go ahead. No, take it. Go ahead. Come on. No.
Yeah, and you like.
And I think that's pretty terrifying. Like that's something that they're, it's like masked self-help pages. You know what I mean? Like.
No, I just wanted to say that I think that like advertisement and the way that like this is like a whole other conversation, the way that bodies are put on the internet and in advertisement is affecting younger girls like to actually be like anorexic and bulimic. Like that's a thing. Yeah. That's all I'm just trying to say.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I completely agree, but I'm talking more about like pages that are like how to know you're bulimic. You've seen those. Have you seen these on Instagram? And it's like it's like a list.
Yeah, anybody can say,
and it convinces them like, oh, well, if you have these 5 things, then like you must be.
I feel like maybe like the ADHD one, is like
ADHD. I just know the bulimic one from a
personal family experience.
Exactly. Exactly. So I'm not. It could be ADHD. It could be bulimia. It could be, a brain tumor. Like it doesn't. Still convincing the person because they're reading it that they're being manipulated by social media reading those things.
Yeah, and I don't think that the person that's doing it is malicious. I think they're genuinely trying to be helpful and do something kind, but at the same time they maybe don't realize that. Again, there are young people out there that see this stuff, and they're highly easily influenced by what they see.
Point. Yeah,
that's dangerous.
It's dangerous because it's like, you have 13, 14-year-old kids now that like, are convinced that they have all these ailments that they maybe do have, but who knows, and like
yeah, they're busy trying to figure out like. They're trying to figure out like who they are, and in that quest, it's like they, there's so much. Media in general is just like it's like a floodgate. I think most people start their morning off with their phone in their hand, and it's kind of like a bombardment of just notifications and information, and it's easy to just, it takes 2 seconds. Like it takes, it's instantaneous that you're in that bubble, and you're just, you go down the rabbit hole. Everybody goes down the rabbit hole. I think we've all been down the rabbit hole, and I don't think you necessarily come out the other end feeling like great. I think you come through as like a time suck, and then you're like,
You're a zombie.
yeah, and it's the whole thing. There's again, there's a lot of context switching, and it doesn't flow. It's not a fluid thing. It's just, it jumps around a lot, and I don't know that your brain can process so many different context switches, that quickly, where you just come out being like, what the fuck did I just see and what I watch, whether it's self-help or, an advertisement or whatever.
Totally, yeah. Does anyone have anything they want to say?
Yeah, join in. This is the first one that we're doing, so like seriously, like if anybody wants to talk, like please.
Just got a question for the thing. Well, not even a question, but let's see. You guys know about Dunbar's number?
No, Dunbar's number. Have you ever heard of the concept? Anybody?
I've heard about
Anybody?
it, but I don't know what
So
it means.
it's just something that came to mind. Basically, somebody was doing research, and the concept being that over the course of human history, before civilization, when, and it's not an exact number, it's an estimate, when a tribe or whatever got to around 150, then the tribe would or if it exceeded that average, it would split. Because the concept being that once you get to that number, it's no longer, the average human mind is no longer able to know everybody and know how everybody knows everybody. And to me, that's still built into our genes and our DNA, but we live in a world now of, we're coming on 8 billion if we haven't hit it yet. So how do you have a world the way you guys are looking for it in a society so large? Is it workable? That's my only question that I was thinking based on what you guys said.
Yeah, totally. Like, what's the solution? For sure. I was thinking about this a lot. We talk about this stuff all the time, and really is like, how do we move forward? And I think like one of the only solutions I know is just like supporting your community, like buying your friends' magazines, buying your friends' music, like putting out your own music, and just like supporting community is like the only.
Back on the Dunbar number. It's interesting actually. Before, like, I think it was like 2010 or something. Like, there was another social media platform that I was using with my friends. It was called Path, and that was, the cap was 150 because they said it's impossible to, like, that is the most amount of social relationships that you can sustain. Like, physically possible is 150 people before, like, if you go above that, that's when you start losing friends and people fall off. But that means, like, you've got to see one of those 150. It takes you, like, 5 months or something to get through. That's hanging out with someone every single day, and that was a cool, like, platform originally, because it was more like a really stripped down journal, almost like it was like a Facebook, but it was very minimal and stripped down, and it was only accessible on your phone. It wasn't meant to be used on the computer, and it was just like little bits of information. Like, you didn't even have to follow anybody on it. You could just kind of set up this thing where you like tag a song or take a photo or whatever. It was very, very private and like kind of like diary thing. But they succumbed to the pressure of other platforms and had to release the cap. And then eventually, like, they unfortunately,
It falls apart.
yeah, eventually they had to, it got shut down. I think it grew the most actually, like, in Thailand or overseas, but eventually they had to shut it down, and now it doesn't exist anymore. But the 150 thing there is truth in that. And community again comes from its physical people. Like, I think that my friends and stuff, the people that I meet, like, they're not going to get to know me through the internet. They're going to get to know me by hanging out with me and spending time with me.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of, like,
It's everything.
Uncensored too. It's like for, just hanging out in person, but also, like, we don't from our experiences, like having events and stuff, we don't exclude like other places. Like you can't come in because you know you said this or you did this. It's like
Doesn't matter.
if people who support that kind of culture, like that came after my friends or me or anybody,
Sure.
if they want to come to an event, like come.
Yeah, they're
you know,
welcome.
It's like because why am I going to be the same way? You know what I mean?
No,
It's
yeah.
like that's what's in, you know, then that's like kind of what we're trying to build. It's like, you know, let's have a conversation here, like
Yeah,
come
it's
to
not.
the event. It's like
Yeah, it's not
and
confrontational. Like
it's not-
anybody that
no.
wants to come is always welcome to come.
even if, you know, like X, Y, and Z, like I don't know, you know, like
Yeah.
somebody doesn't agree with their politics or, you know, they support doxing culture, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
come, who cares? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you want to come, I mean, I'm sure
And
they
they're and
won't,
I'm
but-
sure you know I'm sure they would be welcome to the stage to say their piece if they really felt they needed to. They're welcome to, you know, to say what they got to say or
I
something.
mean, I don't think that's going to happen, but
I don't know. I mean, I don't
I
think it
highly
changes.
doubt
I don't
it.
think it changes like who shows up and who like everybody. Like we all know why we come
but
and
you
why
know,
we're there.
more crazy shit has happened, so you never fucking know. You know?
Yeah,
We also went through a pandemic that killed like half the country. So.
yeah.
But anyway, we got to wrap it up. So, does anybody have any more questions, or are we? This is the first one, so it's a little scatterbrained, but I think we're good.
Are we good?
Sorry if this was negative.
No, I don't think. Do you think it was? I don't think it was.
I don't know.
There's hope. This is This is a good thing. This is why we're here. I kept saying, you know, and everybody that's here supporting, like we thank you guys, and you know we're gonna do more of this stuff, especially here, and you know if you guys sign up with Uncensored on I think on email list, and you can obviously talk to Sam or me or Johnny, you know there's more stuff to come, and you know or get someone's number or email, I don't know, whatever you prefer, message or pigeon, something, and you know we'll stay in touch. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Je regarde passer les trains express au départ pour Verdun. L'hypnose moderne étourdie nos jubilations secrètes. Oh, la nuit porte bien conseil des ministres et plénitude des exercices. Remaniement, manigance, mausolée des sourires, rien de nouveau à l'ordre du jour. Demandez le programme, le robot est l'aboutissement du cerveau occidental. Je regarde passer les trains express au départ pour Verdun. Et vous, Paris, Madrid, Tanger, Gênes, Cordoue, West Hollywood, les avions ne permettent pas le voyage. Les rails, même sans fin, ne permettent pas le voyage. Les ferries ne permettent pas le voyage. L'autostop, même de l'Angleterre à la Nouvelle-Orléans, ne permet pas le voyage. Les bus Greyhound torpillent l'infini, mais ne permettent pas le voyage. Je regarde passer les trains express au départ pour Verdun. Oh, est-ce que les tramways de l'âme pourraient conduire nos pas aux vagabonds? Qui dira la rénovation des lignes? Je ne suis plus que les voies qui me guident, périphériques, intérieures, comprises. Mathématiques amoureuses, faites d'équations à bien des inconnus. Faites d'équations à bien des inconnus. Pendant que contre un peu d'or, Disneyland achète le silence des dormeurs. Nous happe comme des palangres pélagiques, recouvre nos voix sourdes de pelletés arides. Regarde passer les trains express au départ pour Verdun. Et on l'a dans le baba. Si l'on pouvait retrouver les 40 voleurs. Soutien, 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 soutien aux braqueurs de Nice et d'ailleurs. Soutien aux bandits qui détroussaient et assassinaient les voyageurs. Soutien aux brigands qui s'en prenaient aux bêtes de somme et d'addition. Soutien aux hordes barbares qui contrecarrent les plans du complot des cloportes. Souvenir de la souveraine France. Je vous salue qui tirez sur tout ce qui ne bouge pas. Les jours heureux au bout de revolver encore chaud. Suprématie du combat, même singulier. Des raisons tordues et de la démesure. Car à force de s'en rapprocher, je me suis brûlé au creuset des possibles. Je finirai pendu à ma corde sensible. Je regarde passer les trains express au départ pour Verdun. Je regarde passer les trains Express au départ pour Verdun. Mise à feu et à sang, on ne s'arrête pas en marche. On m'avait dit que le monde avait de beaux paysages, mais je l'ai vu de nuit, et la rue de la soif cristallise mes envies. Alors, allez, on y va, 100 ans de solitude, jouer du piano ivre comme un instrument à percussion, jusqu'à ce que les doigts saignent un peu. Et ça, mon hurlement nocturne, peut-être qu'un loup l'entendra. Sur les rives et les berges, l'ivresse ralentit et met au jour les temporalités particulières de la nuit. Je regarde passer les trains express au départ pour Berlin.